So it wasn't long before we were doing the rounds of the clubs, mixing up impressions, songs and sketches, and cutting quite an original look. What with Les in his hippie gear, Tez looking like a soul boy, Des as a punk, and me dressed in my finest easy listening combination of golfing slacks, pastel sweaters and cravats. You might well ask, what sort of music does a band with our mix of influences and looks make? And the answer, strangely enough, is country and western. I mean, not always, but it is good for storytelling and changing lyrics. So we had one, like about getting a cab outside of Bun in the Oven and throwing up everywhere, called Take Me Home Ezel Road. Another one about getting extra helpings, if you know what I mean, from a lunchtime supervisor, set to a David Soul tune called Dinner Lady. And one about being worried about putting your sheets in for a service wash, 'cause you fancy the girl who works there, which we called By the Time I Get to Bendix. To me, that one always felt a bit too much like airing your dirty laundry in public. Most of the lyrics were written by Des, with Tez doing the music and Les putting the finishing touches to both. We had some originals as well, such as Trogbar Blues, a sea shanty called Fisherman's Friend, or as we preferred to call it, Skate Gob, and a folk tune about a lord and gentleman from the East Riding who comes home to find his wife in a compromising position with a masked outlaw, which we called the Lady Rimswell. All very much in what's known as the oral tradition, apparently. We had a load of shorter, punchier bits as well, such as saying the next tune has been suggested by our sponsor, before mentioning the nearest funeral parlour, and then playing the chorus from A Little Bit More by Dr. Hook. I'm not sure we ever improved anybody's business doing that. We had another one, where I'd play a series of TV cops trying to figure out where a prison escape was taking place, with the lads trying to give me a big clue by playing the first bit of Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak over and over to help me out. It's a mad lyric, that one, although I reckon they were making a comment about the stupidity of the criminal classes, showing off and all of that. Tonight there's going to be a train robbery somewhere in this town. Or tonight someone's going to get beat up in a police cell somewhere in this town. They just can't keep it to themselves. Sometimes we'd interact with the audience, like if we had a bunch of couples on the tables next to the stage. We'd say, here's one for the swingers down the front, and play Got to Get You Into My Wife. I lost count of the number of times we'd hit on the truth with that one, and we'd all get invited back to join in the fun. We never took anyone up on it, but I got the idea Tez might have gone on to one or two after we'd gone home for the night, as he reckoned swinging had something to do with keys in a ball, and we'd be better off working up a version of Baby You Can Drive My Car. We also did some songs with impressions of celebrities, such as Patrick Moore, singing an easy listening version of a song Des brought along, called Another Girl, Another Planet, or me doing Eddie Waring singing Up and Under the Boardwalk. We even had an entire medley of Norman Collier doing My Generation, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, and Ch8 Changes by David Bowie. Everything was going great. We were getting tons of work in and around Hull, building a big reputation locally, and it seemed like we couldn't put a foot wrong. Well, not until Benny got us a spot on a bill for a load of female Scunthorpe United supporters. Benny had said if we stuck with him, we'd go places. But when he said that, I'm fairly certain none of us were thinking in terms of going to Scunthorpe. If anything, we were thinking in terms of something a bit more exotic. Somewhere like Doncaster, maybe. And speaking of exotic, we were playing support to Exotic Eve and Temptation, warming the crowd up before they came on, and gave what Benny called a private showing. Mam said it probably did involve showing something private, and would be a drag. She also said it was a good job we were on first, 'cause she wouldn't want to have to remind us not to drink out of any of the beer mugs if Eve had been balancing them on Temptation. When we got there, the party was already in full swing, so we set up and got straight down to it, sticking mostly to musical stuff, as the crowd were already too drunk to listen to much. The first few numbers went okay. Someday soon you'll win the house at Astoria Bingo. I know it's only Arctic Roll, but I like it. And an original called Attack of the 10-Foot Woman. We just about got away with Arnold Lane. Come with me to Withersea. It's a world of pure imagination. And another original about a brief encounter just outside of Bridlington called Flamborough Head. But things really started to go amiss when we did our version of Float On, which Les described as a combination of individual star signs and what he called scatological preferences, especially as they were eating at the time. I don't know if they had a punch bowl, but Les said we'd certainly added something unwelcome to it. So we thought we'd try and win 'em back by going for broke and hitting 'em with our version of Who Put the Bomb, where in the first part we sang about putting the horn in Hornsey, the wang in Wet Wang, and an obvious one about Penistone. Then we went south of the river, singing about the Grim in Grimsby, a few other places on the way, before finally getting to Scunthorpe, which was the point when, as far as the female footballers were concerned, it really kicked off. The whole thing was like a scene out of a documentary on football hooligans. Chairs thrown everywhere, fists flying, the boot going in. Honestly, if the team was as accurate as some of the kicking that was going on, they'd have been much higher placed in the scheme of things. They really would. We thought better of it, of course, took the gear down as quick as humanly possible, and headed down the fire exit just as Exotic Eve was coming up the back entrance. We said we didn't think it was a good idea to go into the clubhouse, but Eve reckoned they'd been in similar situations before, and as soon as they saw the snake, they'd calm down. They might not give in to Eve, but they'd certainly give in to temptation. And Eve was spot on. We stuck around just long enough to watch 'em all gradually settle down as they freaked out at the sight of that massive snake. Course, it would have been great to stay on and catch the full Monty and all of the extras that went with it. But we were in the van and halfway to Hull before you could say, "Take me in, oh tender woman." Admittedly, we were really worried about what Benny would say and how we might end up losing loads of bookings and what have you. But we needn't have bothered, 'cause when we rung him up the next day, he told us not to worry and that he'd sort it. He said we were destined for bigger things anyway, especially now, since he'd got us an audition with New Feces.